It all started when I married my girlfriend. Her mother, Margaret, made an immediate impression on me. She was 41 years old, but she looked amazing. Slim, well-groomed, with a great figure. I, of course, tried not to stare when she bent over in the kitchen to reach the refrigerator. But I couldn't help it. I got goosebumps. One day my wife Emily was away on a business trip, and that was the beginning of it all. She asked me to go to her mother's house because she had bought a new bathtub that needed to be installed. I arrived in the evening after work, and Margaret opened the door in a robe that only emphasized her figure. I stumbled over the threshold, trying to keep my composure. While I worked on the tub, she handed me the tools, and I couldn't help but notice how gently her fingers touched mine. And when the job was done, she poured wine and said we should celebrate the successful installation and wash the new tub. We sat in the kitchen, sipping wine, and talked for hours. She told me about how her husband had left her 3 years ago and how lonely she had been since then. There was something vulnerable about her in that moment, something that drew me in, and I looked at her and couldn't resist. At one point, she got up to pour more wine, and I walked over to her. Then she turned around and we were face to face. I don't know who reached out first, but within a second we were kissing. It was like all the barriers that had been holding us back just fell away. It was all so sudden for me. And then, well, you know what happened next. We sat in the bedroom until midnight, completely lost in each other. In the morning, I woke up feeling guilty, but Margaret was so calm and beautiful lying next to me. She told me that everything was fine and that she sometimes thought about me. I was stunned. A mixture of emotions overwhelmed me. I started finding reasons to visit her more often. I completely lost my head thinking about her all the time. Eventually, Emily suspected something and started following me. One day she caught us together at her mother's house. She screamed hysterically and demanded a divorce on the spot. I didn't even fight back. By then I realized that I truly loved Margaret. Yes, she was 15 years older than me. Yes, she was my wife's mother, but none of that mattered anymore. We began to live together, even though many people turned their backs on me. Even my parents distanced themselves from me, not understanding my choice, but we were happy in our little world. A couple months later, Margaret told me she was pregnant. I almost went crazy with joy. It was unexpected, but it felt like a miracle. Although everyone around her said it was dangerous to give birth at her age, she insisted. She was determined to have our baby, and I admired her strength and resilience. The pregnancy was difficult. Margaret had to be very careful. There were many doctor's appointments, many sleepless nights filled with worry. But she hung in there, and I was right there with her, doing my best to support her. And when our son was born, I realized that all the struggles were worth it. We named him Ethan, and when I held him in my arms for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and purpose. Now, 2 years later, Margaret and I are married and living together, raising our son. I heard that Emily remarried and moved to another town to live with her parents. Over time, my parents reconciled with us and fell in love with their grandson. He melted their hearts with his laughter and innocence. They couldn't resist him and gradually came to terms with our unconventional family. I know that many people judge our relationship. They look at us with curiosity, whispering behind our backs. Yes, it's unusual to be married to your mother-in-law, but we are happy, and that's all that matters to us. Margaret is still as lovely as ever, and now she's also a wonderful mother. She has a warmth and tenderness about her that makes Ethan feel protected and loved. Sometimes I watch her rock Ethan in her arms, humming softly to him, and I think, this is the real thing. That's what love and family's all about. Happiness, even if it's different from other people's perceptions, is still happiness. Of course, there were difficult moments, especially right after the divorce. The first few months were the hardest. We dealt with the fallout, the judgment, the whispering and the isolation. But we supported each other, and now I have my own business, and Margaret helps with the bookkeeping. She is incredibly organized and meticulous, and I trust her completely. Ethan is growing up to be a healthy, active boy, full of energy and curiosity. He loves to explore, and we often take him to the park, where he runs and laughs, carefree. We are planning to buy a house in the country with plenty of space for Ethan to play, and we want to get a dog. We know Ethan would love one. Margaret says I've breathed new life into her, that before I came along, she was slipping into a rut of loneliness. I feel the same way about her. She has brought something into my life that I didn't even realize I had. Age is just a number when two people truly love each other. We may not have the most conventional story, but it's ours, and it's beautiful in its own way. We are building a life together, a family filled with love, laughter, and hope for the future. And that, in my opinion, is everything. Right now we have dreams that we are working towards together. We want to travel when Ethan is a little older to show him the world. Margaret and I often talk about places we want to visit: mountains, the sea, cities with rich history and culture. We want to give Ethan experiences that will mold him into a kind, considerate person. We also talk about expanding our family, perhaps having another child. We both want this, and we know it won't be easy, but we are willing to face whatever comes our way as long as we are together. Life may take an unexpected turn, but I wouldn't change a thing. Margaret is my partner, my thimble, the love of my life. We have been through a lot and have grown stronger. Every challenge we've faced has only brought us closer together, and now we are living proof that love can be found in the most unlikely places. And when I watch Margaret with Ethan, or when she looks at me with a knowing smile, I realize that we have found something rare and precious, something that many people spend a lifetime searching for. We have found love. We have found happiness. And that is more than enough